We don't have to know where we're stuck or why. We don't have to know we're imbalanced. It doesn't have to be, my experience of like, man, I've been hot for so many days and I just don't want to be hot anymore. It doesn't have to be that literal. It can be sneaky sometimes when we're in that place of imbalance. Welcome. You are listening to Our Mindful Nature, formerly titled The Mindful Minute. I'm your host, Meryl Arnett. This podcast explores the deep connection between land and self through nature-based meditations and meditative experiences that invite us back into belonging to each other, to our ancestors, to the earth, and to all beings that make up this universe. If you would like to access these meditation practices as standalone audio files, please subscribe to my newsletter at merylarnett.com. It's free, and you'll receive a new mini meditation each week, along with behind-the-scenes content and bonus material for each podcast episode. All right, grab a cup of tea, pop in your headphones, and find a comfy seat. Let's settle in for today's episode. Well, welcome. Happy July. I'm glad we are here together to practice so close after the solstice. It's really nice to get to repeat a live practice with y'all. And I have really been thinking, I was like, man, what am I going to teach? Like, I just spent all this time developing the solstice class, and now here it is again. We have to do something new. I just came back from a few days at the beach down in Florida, which was lovely. And I was like projectile sweating. It was so hot. And I mean, it has been here too, right? It's like you walk outside and your body's just like, oh my God, it's so hot. Get this heat out of me. And so because of that, I have really been thinking about like, what are ways to bring some balance when the temperature, whether that's like literal temperature or like the temperature of the day based on your level of stress, when the temperature feels extreme, right? When we feel like we're pulled into being frozen, when we're projectile sweating or somewhere in between, we have these moments that are really imbalanced temperature wise, whether that's literal temperature or nervous system temperature, right? The way that our anxiety shows up. I was just talking with a client this morning, actually, and it was interesting because he was like, I woke up, I was kind of anxious, talking about several days ago. I woke up, I was kind of anxious. And the more I sat with it, the more anxious I realized, like there was a lot of anxiety. It was really there. It was very present. And he was like, I sort of had to sit with it for like a good chunk of the morning before I felt any type of shift. And I don't know that that's uncommon, right? Oh, I'm sorry, I have an eyelash in my eye. Um, I don't know that that's uncommon for us to have these moments where an emotion or an experience hits us, whether that's full force or sort of subtly rising up, and then we're in it for a good bit. How do we create balance? The other way that we might need to create a bit of balance for ourselves is when we find ourselves in a rut of some sort. A rut meaning, it could be I'm showing up for my practice, but I do the same thing every day, exact same amount of minutes, exact same, I listen to the same thing or I say the same thing to myself. And my experience feels pretty flat. Nothing new is happening. I'm not feeling particularly connected or deep. Or it could be that you're doing a practice, but you're like really stuck in the same experience every time. I want it to feel the same or look the same, or I don't want it to, but it is, right? Any of these ways where we feel a sense of being stuck in something or a sense of imbalance. My go-to practice for this is an elemental balancing practice, right? And you guys will know this. When I start it, you're going to be like, sure, we've done this before. It's a go-to for a reason, because that journey through the elements, also through the chakras, like moving our energy up the spine, is that invitation to unstick, to unblock. It's an invitation for things to shift. And we don't have to know where we're stuck or why. We don't have to know we're imbalanced. It doesn't have to be, my experience of like, man, I have been hot for so many days and I just don't want to be hot anymore. Doesn't have to be that literal. It can be sneaky sometimes when we're in that place of imbalance. Um, Imbalance also shows up quite a bit in moments of change, right? Things are shifting at work, at home, in your personal life, and we sort of get wrapped around the axle in some way, right? And so the movement from root all the way up is this invitation to sort of realign, an invitation for energy to flow. And then I want to add, I've been playing with something a little different. So I'm sort of combining two practices tonight. So you guys know elemental balancing. That'll be very familiar to you. The other one I'm doing is a bit of a riff on a practice that Tracy Stanley teaches quite a bit called Still Lake of the Mind. And the reason is, as we journey upward, if we start at the root chakra, we're at earth. When we get to the sacrum, we're at water, the navel center, fire, heart center, air, throat center is ether. And then we get up to the third eye, midbrain, and we're in a really interesting place. We're beyond the elements. We're really sort of at the birth point of the elements, actually. And so this third eye space is a really generative field, right? And it can be easy to move into that space and it be full of thoughts, ideas, anxieties, worries, stories, things that create our identity for us. And when we pull in this practice, Still Lake of the Mind, what we're doing is inviting ourselves to merge into that generative field so that it's no longer Meryl thinking thoughts within a field. It is just the field. I am that field, right? And it's an interesting, a bit ephemeral, perhaps, concept within meditation. Ultimately, what we're working towards is a bit of disillusionment of our identity, right? We walk around very firm in who we are and what we believe. It's what makes me, me. It's what makes you, you, right? And the way that we operate is that there is a separation between me and everything else in my experience. And the teachings of meditation say, actually, truth be told, there is no separation. It is not Meryl and the earth. It is not Miles and the cosmos. It is just the cosmos. We are within it. We are part of it. We are woven into the very fabric. And so our practice this evening is not one only of balance, but we'll start to bring that balance in specifically so that we can quiet a bit of our firm identity and meld a bit with the generative field of experience. Yeah, sound good? And we'll be listening to A Summer Night as recorded by Gordon Hempton. So hopefully you'll hear a bit of familiar sounds for your practice this evening. Yes. So why don't we get started? Let's take a minute to find a comfortable seat, situating yourself however you feel most supported. You let your hands rest. You might choose to close your eyes. You might also decide to simply take a soft gaze down towards the ground. And together as a group here, we'll begin with a nice deep inhale in. Exhale out a sigh. We'll do that once more, inhaling deeply. Exhaling out a sigh. Taking all the time you need to settle into your practice this evening. And to begin by silently saying to yourself, now is my time to meditate. Now is my time to meditate. And as you say those words to yourself, I hope you can settle right here, right now. Allowing yourself to drop a bit more into the body. And then very mindfully invite yourself to soften. Softening any noticeable tension through the face and the jaw, through the shoulders, the chest, the belly. Softening any gripping in your hips or your legs. Letting go all the way down into your feet. And as we sit and we breathe this evening, just in your mind's eye, imagine drawing a circle around yourself. This circle can be any color or any element or any item, thing that you want it to be. A circle of flame, of water, of wildflowers or light. And this circle creates a layer of protection. It holds at bay all the distractions of the outside world. It holds at bay the thoughts, the stories, the to-dos. This circle is also permeable. It lets in whatever it is that we need for support. We find ourselves seated here, both safe and supported. And so we take time to draw our senses inward. Sight and sound. Smell, taste, touch, all drawing inward. And dropping to the very base of the pelvis. The root chakra here, the home of earth. Earth as soil, stone, the element of earth carries the sound lum. You might just repeat it silently to yourself a few times. Lum, 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 lum. Lum, 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 lum. Lum, 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 lum. And from earth, our awareness, our energy begins to rise. And traveling up towards the sacrum, the home of water. Water is river, rain, lake, ocean, tears. Water, the sound is vum. Vum, 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 vum. Vum, 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 vum. Vum, 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 vum. And from the home of water, energy and awareness rise once again. Drifting towards the navel center. The home of fire. Fire is candle flame, campfire, forest fire, the sun itself. The sound is rum. Rum, 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 rum. Rum, 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 rum. Rum, 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 rum. From the heat of the fire, energy rises up the spine. Traveling up, up, up towards the heart center. This is the home of air, of breath, of wind, of spirit itself. The sound of air is yum. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. Yum, 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 yum. From the home of air, energy and breath rise, moving from heart center to throat center, the home of ether. Ether is the container, the holder of all the things, space itself. Within this space is the sound hum. Hum, 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 hum. Hum, 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 hum. Hum, 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 hum. And from ether, we travel upward, right into the very center of the brain. This central point is the generative field, the creation of all things, all ideas, all concepts. And it can be pictured as a vast lake under a night sky. An inky darkness above us, reflected in the water surrounding us. Every thought, every story, everything, a ripple in that lake. The sound here is Om. And as the sound travels across the lake, it smooths out all ripples. Om, 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 Om. Om, 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 Om. Om, 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 Om. Lingering here. Smoothing out the ripples until you cannot distinguish between sky and lake. Until we merge with the very fabric of the cosmos. Just a few minutes here. Feeling your breath here in this central place, moving down towards the throat center. And dropping down towards the heart center. Yum. And down towards the navel center. Rum. Down towards the sacral center. Rum. Down to the root. Lum. And from here, we broaden our awareness out. Taking in the entire body, balanced here. Letting our breath, our senses, our awareness start to move outward. You might encounter that circle you drew at the beginning of practice. When you're ready, you can let that circle go. Your awareness might expand out a bit more, taking in the room that you're in, the place, the time that you're in. It's here that we deepen our breath. We wiggle our fingers together as a group. We take a deep inhale in. Exhale out a sigh. Taking all the time you need to let go of your practice, to blink your eyes open once again. Thanks for listening to Our Mindful Nature. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider sharing it with a friend or leaving me a review wherever you get your podcasts. It helps others to find the show, and let's face it, we could all use a few more meditators in our lives. Our Mindful Nature is recorded on Muskogee land and produced with the support of Brianna Nielsen. Deep gratitude is offered to acoustic ecologists Gordon Hempton and Nick McMahon for the use of their nature field recordings in many of these episodes. To join my live classes, ask questions, or learn about my teacher trainings, please visit merylarnett.com. Thanks again for listening. I'll see you next week.